Hello, CO 150 rock stars, and welcome to week 11. We are quickly moving from A2. Wow, that was a huge amount of work. And into A3, which is the researched proposal where dreams become a proposed reality. You can think about this genre as a business genre, and I will explain all about where A3 is going to take us. But you can keep in your mind that this is about a 3-week unit. Your A3 will be due April 27th. That's a Monday. And it is a much smaller project, more creative, and builds off of A2. I think it's super fun. My class last term loved A3, I think the most out of all 4 of the projects. Okay, so moving right along. Let's just take a moment to reflect on A2. So yeah, you have done a ton of work. By Wednesday, you'll also submit an A2 post, right, which will ask you to reflect on that work. But really, you have built over many, many weeks a strong researched argument and delivered that argument to a stakeholder group. Now, the work of A3 will build on A2. So first, what you should do is check out the assignment sheet for A3. I'm going to show you where that is. Oops, let's see if I can even get us out of here. A3, your research proposal, you can find this assignment sheet under assignments. I've also linked it in the email I'm sending you. It is a research-supported problem-solution proposal directed to an individual stakeholder. So you're going to select a specific and narrow problem within the same issue you wrote about for A2, and will formulate a new unique solution directed to a specific individual stakeholder. So that means you're going to build on the research that you've done, but also continue to research with the more narrow focus and with this audience in mind. This assignment is worth 20% of your grade. It's about 900 to 1200 words. I've outlined the timeline here. You are going to closely read this sheet, so I'm not going to go through everything. But yeah, that's kind of what you're working in. You're working in the genre of a research proposal. You're going to do some more investigation of what that genre actually looks like. You might also note that you now have access to a whole bunch of resources for your A3, and this is of course under the A3 research proposal unit. And yeah, I've put the hierarchy, which you should take a look at, the rubric for how I'm grading, several resources which I'll work through as we come upon them in our working of A3, and then also several samples of proposals. You are going to take a look at these samples, some of which you'll read sort of broadly, the first 4, and then the last one, the research for skate parks under bridges, which is also in your JTC, you're going to read very closely. You're going to kind of consider this as your Bible, and I mean that completely inoffensively, but your Bible for how to think about the genre of the researched proposal. Okay, so let's look at what the rhetorical situation is for A3. The purpose of A3 is to identify a problem within your researched issue from A2, explain why the problem is relevant to the audience, and propose a new, unique plan to solve the problem so that you can expand the conversation on the issue. The author is, of course, you, but a you who is wiser to the world, having completed your A2 and of course experiencing now this major global pandemic. I think this also makes you wiser to the world, more thoughtful, more critical, more considerate of the ways that you can potentially impact, and more considerate of problems in the world. Your audience will be a specific stakeholder who is a real life person you can Google. This is a real life person that might be from your stakeholder group. So let's say your stakeholder group was like the tourism boards across the world. That would be a pretty broad stakeholder, but let's say that's who it was. And let's say you're going to focus that down to the head of tourism for Fort Collins, like something of a particular person that you could then look up. Some context surrounding your A3, this is the era of the entrepreneur. You are going to be proposing in the way that an entrepreneur might. This is the era of remote collaboration. It's completely appropriate and custom that people receive proposals via the internet. Some other contexts, wow, we're living in a major, thorny, problematic world in some ways. Some other contexts might be the coronavirus, the impending election, any of those things that are sort of impacting your thinking and the way that your proposal might be received, etc. Sort of all of this context goes into the recipe, so to speak, of the research proposal. Okay, back to the slideshow. So the bottom line is you're going to harness your research from A2 in a research proposal with the audience of a single person, likely from the stakeholder group to which you wrote your A2, though not necessarily. I've just shown you the rhetorical situation. So what you should be doing in the next few days is knowing that you'll be addressing a particular individual and proposing a solution, and that while you're working in the realm of the issue that you used last time, you'll be writing to a much more specific stakeholder, and you should be considering that you'll be moving beyond arguing about the exigence of an issue to proposing a solution to some aspect of the problem. So you should start brainstorming now. Where do you see on the micro scale elements of your A2 problem appearing? How can you convert your research from A2 to address a smaller, more localized version of the problem? Who might be the best person to hear your proposal? But before you even go there, it's really important that you understand the conventions of the genre. So what you're going to do is you're going to watch the genre video, which I've linked in the email. You're going to examine a variety of the proposals. There are myriad examples under A3 resources. You're going to look at the kinds of contents that form a research proposal, like what are the sections, what are those sections doing, etc. You're going to closely read in the JTC Dan Hughes's proposal on pages 160 to 166. Do not worry if you don't have your JTC. There is a way to get the JTC online, and that is in our discussion posts. Hey, while we're online, access to the JTC. So don't worry about that. Let's see what else. Let me go back to there. Yeah. And you can earn 2 extra credit points this week by posting to Friday's discussion an example of a research proposal if you come across one on the internet. But you should follow the directions in the email for homework due Wednesday and Friday. Yeah. So really the next few days are going to be spent familiarizing yourself with the genre and considering, pretty quickly how you're going to narrow the focus of A2 and move on to A3. I'll give you a couple of examples of things that students did last term that I thought worked really well. So I had one student considering the problem of food aid in Africa, how it doesn't exactly address the issues of hunger. And then she converted that to a proposal to a particular school in Lesotho. And she developed a curriculum for teaching students how to self-sustain and do sustainable gardening. It was amazing. I had another student who talked about diet-related diseases in her A2, and then she converted her A2. She wrote to a particular president of a hospital in her hometown and came up with a plan for a farmer's market to be included, to be accessible to patients with diet-related diseases, and for those patients to receive education about how diet relates to disease. Which is something that doctors sometimes ignore. Like they might treat, the symptoms, but they might not treat causes. And so part of her proposal was then educating, of course, on why doctors should care about this, and then, of course, providing the proposal for that problem. I will provide you with some of those student samples, but I just kind of wanted to get you thinking about potential ways that students have converted their A2s in the past. Anyways, I look forward to reading your A2s and to working with you on A3.